Hi, I'm Sian, and I'm going to talk to you today about a collaborative project between King's College London and Boston Children's, aiming to understand the microstructural changes that occur in the fetal brain as it's about to fold, and how our approach gives us mechanistic insight about gyrification in utero. I have no disclosures. The timeline for cortical gyrification is well established, occurring over the second to third trimester in utero, continuing into adolescence. The underlying biology that drives this process remains unclear, and understanding of how cortical malformations arise in utero is limited. Although there are many hypotheses about what drives cortical folding, there aren't any studies carried out in the fetal period at the onset of this process. What you can see from the surface templates generated by our group is how the brain transitions from a relatively smooth structure to developing more folds week on week until term, where the fetal brain looks very similar to an adult at the macrostructural level. There are multiple developmental processes altering the microstructure of the fetal brain over the same time window that cortical folds emerge, that you can see here. And we acquire fetal imaging to look in utero at the MR signal over this developmental window, and the contrast changes taking place that reflect all of this underlying biology. We can also use this contrast to discern the boundaries between different layers of transiently developing compartments. Between the early, mid and late prenatal phases, the microstructure changes significantly as the cytoarchitecture of the brain matures via these compartments. And for this study, we were interested in looking at the microstructure of the cortical plate and the subplate, whose properties transition a lot during this period. And what you can observe is the almost complete disappearance of the subplate during this time frame and the emergence of white matter, all occurring while gyrification takes place. So to understand what drives the mechanisms of folding, various theories have been proposed that include these compartments. However, there is a limited understanding that links these different features of structural brain development in vivo. The data we're using for this project is the fetal cohort of the Developing Human Connectome Project that we've been acquiring over the past 8 years. And on the left, you can see a fetus inside the womb representing some of the challenges in fetal imaging. We developed acquisition methods and pre-processing pipelines to address these unique challenges, and this project has culminated in a cohort of around 300 fetal scans that are now open access and ready for download. So our methods pipeline looks like this. We acquire diffusion and T2MR and motion and distortion correction algorithms. Then we segment them into different tissue types using a deep learning network. We reconstruct surfaces using the white matter boundary. We register the surfaces to templates and interpolate the vertices across subjects, so we have vertex correspondence. And then we register them back into native space so that we can sample the diffusion values and the T2 all within the same space, and in this way we'd have to try to register the diffusion values to template spaces, which can introduce quite a lot of error in the fetal brain. So we map the diffusion values using the surface normal, which is perpendicular to the surface boundary, so we can obtain values of cortical plate and subplate diffusion, and we model the diffusion using various different approaches, the diffusion tensor imaging approach and multi-shell multi-tissue CSD. So conventional DTI allows us to compare results to previous work, and multi-tissue CSD is a data-driven, refined way to model the diffusion signal that can capture more of the information from the contrast between different B shells. So the tissue fraction is representative of the proportion of white matter-like signal, and the fluid fraction is the fluid-like CSF signal. And these are generally comparable to FA and MD. And we can also calculate surface metrics like depth, area and curvature. So we have all of these maps for each subject. So the general trend that we observed with whole brain diffusion metrics is similar within the cortical plate and the subplate. And this was generally a decrease in both FA and MD. And this is thought to reflect the loss of radial alignment in the cortical plate and in the subplate as the scaffolding that facilitates neuronal migration dissipates over this time frame. And then, interestingly, when we use the multi-shell multi-tissue method, we observe increasing tissue fraction, reflecting the proportion of white matter-like signal increasing with age, and fluid fraction mimics the changes in MD, which is interesting because These are, in theory, complementary metrics, but they appear to capture different components of the diffusion signal and therefore are reflecting the change in different biological processes over this time frame. We then wanted to address our main hypothesis. Are there changes in microstructure that cause cortical folding, or do these processes just occur side by side in development? And when we consider age, tissue fraction generally increases as the microstructure of the brain matures, whereas folding occurs with a sigmoidal trend. To remove the effect of age, we looked within subjects at different patches of cortex or vertex neighbourhoods to analyse the coupling of tissue fraction and sulcal depth across the brain. We picked a central vertex to find its neighbours, find the neighbours of its neighbours up to 5 degrees, and then we look at the correlation within these neighbourhoods between tissue fraction and sulcal depth. We picked examples of different subjects at different gestational ages and looked at the same neighbourhood. In central sulcus here, we can see this robust relationship between tissue fraction and sulcal depth, even when the sulcal depth magnitude is very small and the sulcus is first forming. And we see the same relationship in the central sulcus when the sulcus is much more mature. So from this, we can confirm that there's a strong negative relationship, which is definitely independent of age, and sulcal pits have the lowest tissue fraction. When we looked at this relationship across every vertex in the entire brain, across the whole cohort, and took the average within each gestational week of the correlation value, we saw this relationship existed brain-wide, and that sulcal pits appear to represent what we term a local minima in tissue fraction. This relationship survived correction of multiple comparisons and emerged only when sulci first start to develop. We concluded from this that the tissue fraction seems to decrease as a function of sulcal depth, independent of gestational age. We then went on to think about whether we could predict where sulci were going to form based on features in the youngest brains, and we used age mismatch analysis, looking at whether tissue fraction in younger subjects predicts future sulcal depth in the oldest section of the cohort. Before introducing any complex deep learning methods, we just repeat the same analysis again, but with the sulcal depth from the oldest subjects correlated with tissue fraction in the youngest subjects. And we asked, does microstructural change precede the formation of cortical folds? And the answer is yes. The same neighbourhood coupling analysis revealed that there were more strongly correlated areas in the younger subjects than we observed previously, which are highlighted with the black arrows, such that areas are about to fold show this relationship a couple of weeks prior to formation of the sulcus. If we give ourselves more statistical power by not correcting across the whole brain but just within specific areas, we can see very similar patterns of tissue fraction correlations in the earliest subjects when correlated with older sulcal depth. The microstructure appears to adopt a conformation before the sulcus is actually present, suggesting that cytoarchitecture plays an important mechanistic function in gyrification. So in summary, we observed that microstructure of the cortical plate and subplate plays a mechanistic role in cortical folding. We provide in vivo evidence that differences in gyral and sulcal neuroanatomy are actually present at the onset of gyrification in utero, and that diffusion MR signal appears to have predictive power to anticipate the location of cortical folds. This approach shows promise for understanding how cortical abnormalities may arise in utero. A very special thank you to my PhD supervisors, Tomoki Arichi, Johnny O'Murkety and David Edwards, everyone in the Centre for Developing Brain who helped work on this project, and the team at Boston Children's who I've been collaborating with on this year. Thank you for listening.